Hello, I'm Maria Encinosa, and my project is focused on really trying to understand racial disparities in COVID-19 through this dual lens. So, epigenetics is describing these modifications that affect gene expression, but they don't actually change the nucleotides of our DNA. And what's interesting about epigenetics is that they can be triggered by environmental factors like pollution or stress. And not only can they be triggered by our environment, but these changes in our epigenome can be passed down for potentially up to 3 generations, which is just really showing how our social and material worlds can become embodied aspects of our bodies. And that's what my project is kind of proposing, that because minorities are more likely to be disproportionately affected by these environmental stressors, whether that be malnutrition or just stress in general or pollution, that they have these epigenetic links that could possibly be leading to developing these comorbidities that are associated with COVID 19 and really dying or becoming severely ill with COVID 19. So, the use of technology has definitely really been central to kind of my process doing this research because this is happening in the middle of a pandemic. So, really, the need to social distance is at the root of everything I do, which I think in one way could be seen as a disadvantage in that I'm not able to do the ethnography that is typically associated with anthropology and that face-to-face ethnography. But because COVID-19 is happening really at the same time as the Black Lives Matter movement, this has meant that there's really an international conversation about racial health inequity. So I'm seeing these conversations play out in this digital space, but coming from all different types of sources, not just journals and medical anthropology blogs, but on the nightly news, the local paper. And because this is happening online, it's also more accessible to me than perhaps would have been a year ago, in that I've been able to attend webinars from both my school, but also other universities and other institutions, all about these issues of racism and racial health inequity. So yes, technology has been a big part of my project. So, my experience, I've had such an interdisciplinary background, and I really like this project because I think it brings together a lot of that. I'm a double major in international relations and politics, and I also have a degree in biology, so biomedical sciences. And I've always been so interested in kind of understanding all the different socio-cultural, economic kind of factors that go into healthcare because of those two dual interests. And this past summer, I was lucky enough to get involved in an anthropology minor, and that's the lens that's behind this. And I really appreciate the methodology and kind of seeing these issues from a different perspective than a purely biological one. I think one of the really big challenges with this project is just that it can be kind of tiring in that the subject matter is really heavy and it's kind of hard to be sitting with that all the time and thinking about it constantly. But I think I also take a lot of comfort from the fact that, like I said before, these conversations are being had everywhere, and it's really affirming to see that there's, I don't think enough attention, but more attention than in years past to kind of the issue of racial health inequity. And so it has been a challenge kind of emotionally to be thinking and seeing and learning so much about these issues. It just kind of goes and motivates me to do a better job on the project and try to share my message as much as possible because I think it's really important. So I think my project really does have big implications on a community level in that it's affirming what so many communities of color already know, that the experiences of our ancestors continue to affect us today. And that kind of serves as a counter argument to kind of these narratives that turn around this idea that what does it matter that these discriminatory practices happened in the past? That's 50 years ago and has nothing to do with the present. But epigenetics really shows that that isn't true. Not even on, you know, even if we're not talking about a societal level kind of level here, in that we're not talking about how institutions definitely haven't come enough and haven't changed. But on a very basic level, our biologies continue to show the markers of the past experiences of those who came before us. And I think it's also really important here to take into consideration that I don't want this to have negative impacts on the community, because our research can always be twisted in a way that it was never intended. And I think epigenetics is really well posed to kind of combat against some of the kind of pitfalls of the genetics field before epigenetics, in that genetics kind of had an air of determinism about it, because those things, for the most part, don't change. But I think epigenetics is really special in that it shows that nothing about these epigenetic modifications, nothing about these differences here, nothing is innate. These can all be changed, they're not set in stone. And I think in the end, that's a really hopeful message, in that the importance of recognizing the longevity of these modifications and how far they can persist, paired with this ability to change on the part of our genomes, really stresses how important it is that we create reforms that really eliminate these racial disparities in healthcare, because we're going to benefit for really generations to come. So, of course, I could talk about this forever. And if you have any questions, definitely check out the rest of my FLDH page, or just shoot me an email. My contact information at my school address might change over the years, but my personal Gmail account is just my name at mariancinosa@gmail.com. So feel free to shoot me an email if you're interested about anything that I've talked about here.